Get in here. Get up. Jeez. Training for a 100 miler weeks 2 and 3. Don't get hurt. So last week was pretty boring, but I had to lay down the groundwork. This week, I'm gonna focus more on just a few things, few topics that I learned, and I guess you can tell from the first one is don't get injured. This week was pretty big for me, week 2. I had a 21 miler followed by a 9 miler, which really, when you talk about mileage, isn't that important. It's more about time on feet, vertical, what surface you're on. There's a lot of other variables in these runs. I felt great on that 21 miler. It felt like my own personal mini ultra marathon. I had to pull off the side of the road, drink a lot of water. I didn't bring any gels. I just kind of went for it. And I felt that my body held up really well. On the next day, I did a 9 miler, and around 8 miles into that run, I started to feel a little bit of pain on the inside of my ankle into my lower leg. And it was an ache more than a pain, but what happened was the next day I felt it just walking around, and that wasn't something that I had experienced before in the previous week. So it was just a big red flag and a reminder that on these long runs, and when you jump right into a 50-mile training week off of nothing, that you got to take it easy, and that you do increase your increase your risk of getting hurt. So what did I do? Well, it was an ache, not a sharp pain, so I was able to just sort of work through it. And how do you work through it? Well, there's a couple things. One is all the preventative stuff, and it's hard to know how much stretching and rolling and massage pays off, but if you don't do it, you'll never know. So I'll link to these in the description below, what they are, but they're good for rolling out and working out the muscles. This is a pretty firm roller, good for the quads, calves, whole lower legs, back, you name it. And this is more point specific, the orb from ProTech. And then everyone knows the stick. So, and the last thing, cupping. Cupping helps promote circulation, break up the junky legs. And in my case, this area here started to swell up a little bit, so icing obviously helped too, but it's just a sign to ramp things down. But anyways, my legs are trashed. I did a ton of skiing again on top of my mileage, and week 3, I had to dial it back a little bit. So my mileage was more around 45 miles for the week. Again, not important. But the 3 highlights were that 21-mile run. That was huge. It's good to be able to just throw in a big run whenever, doesn't matter, any time of the week, to be able to just run 20 miles. That's a pretty big effort. If you look at the elite marathon and ultra runners, they're doing 20-mile runs once or twice a week. That's a big sign of ultra fitness, is being able to go run out, feel comfortable and in control and strong during that 20-miler. Now, as you progress, probably start throwing in some speed work or little workouts within that 20-miler. That's the next step, but I'm still building up my base mileage as I cram 18 weeks of training into 14 weeks. Number 2 was my first real track workout. And I know I shouldn't be jumping into track workouts. This was a real baby workout. The whole point was I was skiing on Wednesday, and there was an organized track workout happening later that evening. And so I went, showed up, just started warming up on the track. Next thing you know, I hopped into repeats of 400 meters. I ended up doing 8 of those, worked my way from, 80 seconds, 85 seconds down to 75 seconds. So that's good. It's getting some speed, 5-minute pace. That's pretty fast for me right now. I'd like to get that quicker as I introduce more workouts, but the hard thing is that I'm increasing the load, and I've got to be careful not to get injured, because workouts are an easy way to get injured. Third highlight of the week was just dirt roads. I just found every dirt road in my neighborhood, really trying to replicate the Vermont 100 course, which is just not flat. All these dirt roads are either going up or going down. Any run from this house, I'm doing 1,000 vert if I hit 10 miles. So that's really important too, to get the legs conditioned for the ups and downs. If you go into this race without any of that simulated training, your legs are going to be toast by mile 20. So 3 weeks in, training's going really well. Key thing is that I'm consistent, getting out, getting my runs in, and I'm feeling relatively healthy aside from that one ache that seems to be subsiding now that I'm giving it a little more attention using all these products. The next week or two is going to be difficult. I'm going to Iceland for, I think, 10 days at the end of the month, and that will be more skiing, but also a lot of running. Not too concerned about it, but once June rolls around, I'll be able to focus 100% on running, incorporate some more of that biking and hiking like I was talking about before, and hopefully get those workouts in. I think I'll end by just talking a little bit about my running background. I don't have a competitive running background. I always jogged 3-4 miles in college, and after college in 2009, I jumped in my first 10K with this goal of doing sub 40 minutes. And that was my first race, and I learned a lot. Don't go out super fast. I ended up having a miserable race, ran a 42 or 43 something, and hated racing. That was it. I thought I was done with racing after that, but fast forward to 2014, I got back into it. I went to this race at Wildcat Ski Area called the Wildman. It's a 10K run, 20-mile bike, and then you run 2,000 vertical feet up the ski area. And I watched my girlfriend do this, and then I realized, why am I not doing this? I could train for this, I could do well. And next thing you know, I signed up for a half marathon that led to triathlons and snowshoe running and Nordic skiing and every other kind of endurance sport wrapped into one. Then in 2015, I somehow got connected with Scott Jurek to crew him through the White Mountains. After that, I did a 50 miler, and then I did a bunch of other stuff in the White Mountains I'll save that for another story. But ultimately, this is a progression from really 2012 when I started to really get into running until now, 2018. So it's been about 6 years to work my way into this. That's it. Have a good week. Don't get hurt.